tried several times when I was looking how far to roll.
Oh,
Tried to fix it, but I couldn't.
no, don't worry, don't worry. Yeah, well, actually, would you mind? See, I'm sort of trapped here. Could you pass me those? Thank you. Are you still doing cartel playing classes? Have they been doing them?
They have been doing them. If we had that iris period, and then for the first week I was clean when we got there. I was cleaning the Pujari room, so I didn't go. And then after I started then they didn't have a lesson, and then my hand started giving me problems, so I haven't been to it.
Because you can sing okay. I mean, you can sing quite nicely. If you could get the cartels right, be good. But anyway, whatever. Right, so here we go. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balava Giri Bharadhari Gopi Jana Balava Giri Bharadhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Andana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Balava Giri Bharadhari Ava Gopi Jana Balava Giri Bharadhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Vanachare Yamunatira Vanachare Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jai Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Vishnavad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Tadas Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Shri Radha Radhanath Ki Shri Giri Govardhan Ki Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Sankirtan Yagya Ki Go Premanande. All glories to their assembled devotees. All glories to their assembled devotees. All glories to their assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 31. Lord Kapila's instructions on the movements of the living entities. Text 36. Prajapati Swam Duhitaram Drishtva Tad Rupa Darshita Rohid Bhutam So Anvadhavad Riksha Rupi Hata Trapa Prajapati Swam Duhita Ram Drishtva Rupa Darshita Rohit Bhutam Son Vadhavad Riksharupi Hatatrapa Prajapati Swam Duhitaram Drishtva Rupa Darshita Rohit Bhutam Son Vadhavad Riksharupi Hatatrapa. Prajapati Swam Duhitaram. Drishtva Tadrupa Darshita. Rohit Bhutam Sonvadhavad. Riksharupi Hatatrapa. Bhutam Sonvadhavad. Riksharupi Hatatrapa. Mataji's. Prajapati Swam Duhitaram. Drishtratadrupa Darshita. Rahit Otam Sonvadhavad. Riksharupi Hatatrapa. Prajapati, Lord Brahma, Swam, his own, Duhitaram, daughter, Drishtva, having seen, Tatrupa, by her charms, Darshita, bewildered, Rohit Bhutam, to her in the form of a deer. Sa, he, Anvadhavat, ran, Riksharupi, in the form of a stag, Hata, bereft of, Trapa, shame. Translation. At the sight of his own daughter, Brahma was bewildered by her charms, and shamelessly ran up to her in the form of a stag, when she took the form of a hind. Hind is sort of the same as a doe, a female deer, basically. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Brahma's being captivated by the charms of his daughter, and Lord Shiva's being captivated by the Mohini form of the Lord, are specific instances which instruct us that even great demigods like Brahma and Lord Shiva, what to speak of the ordinary conditioned soul, are captivated by the beauty of woman. Therefore everyone is advised that one should not freely mix, even with one's daughter or with one's mother or with one's sister, because the senses are so strong that when one becomes infatuated, the senses do not consider the relationship of daughter, mother, or sister. It is best, therefore, to practice controlling the senses by performing bhakti yoga, engaging in the service of Madan Mohan. Lord Krishna's name is Madan Mohan, for he can subdue the god Cupid or lust. Only by engaging in the service of Madan Mohan can one curb the dictates of Madan, Cupid. Otherwise, attempts to control the senses will fail. Prajapati Swam Duhita Ram Drishtva Tadrupa Darshita Rohit Bhutam Sonvadhavad Riksharupi Hatatrapa. At the sight of his own daughter, Brahma was bewildered by her charms and shamelessly ran up to her in the form of a stag when she took the form of a hind. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimad Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastichadesh Tarne Sri Krishna Chaitanya Pramanityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchkapatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha. Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Right. Well, this is continuing, of course, the same theme we've been reading the last some number of days. And, well, some may think that the example given here is extreme. Of course, it is extreme, but some may think that it is sort of unreasonably extreme, that how would such a thing happen? How could such a thing happen? That a father becomes attracted physically to his daughter. Some people may think that this is just, why talk about this? Because it's just too extreme. It just doesn't happen. The bad news, unfortunately, is that it does happen. And it happens, at least from what we hear, it happens a lot more than a lot of people might think. So, anyway, without going into all sort of that side of it, the social side, the point here, of course, the point is that mixing between the sexes should be carefully controlled, or really, you could say, not done even, or at least done only when necessary in Krishna consciousness, only when necessary in terms of service and in terms of service, in devotional service. Otherwise, more healthy in general to avoid such mixing. There, Srila Prabhupada actually in the purport is referring to a particular verse, which I'd like to just read to us. It is the 9th canto, chapter 19. Chapter 19. And it is verse 17. Yeah. This is a verse Prabhupada's referring to about sitting near to even female family members. Matra swasra duhitrava na viviktasano bhavet balavan indriya gramo vidvamsam api karshati. One should not allow oneself to sit on the same seat, even with one's own mother, sister, or daughter, for the senses are so strong that even though one is very advanced in knowledge, he may be attracted by sex, and she may be also. And let me just read the purport of this verse. It's sort of the same idea, basically, but it's interesting and worthwhile. So Srila Prabhupada says, learning the etiquette of how to deal with women does not free one from sexual attraction. As specifically mentioned herewith, such attraction is possible even with one's mother, sister, or daughter. Generally, of course, one is not sexually attracted to his mother, sister, or daughter. But if one allows himself to sit very close to such a woman, one may be attracted. This is a psychological fact. It may be said that one is liable to be attracted if he is not very advanced in civilized life. However, as specifically mentioned here, vidvamsam apikarshati, even if one is highly advanced materially or spiritually, he may be attracted by lusty desires. The object of attraction may even be one's mother, sister, or daughter. Therefore, one should be extremely careful in dealings with women. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was most strict in such dealings, especially after he accepted the sannyas order. Indeed, no woman could come near him to offer respect. Again, one is warned herewith that one should be extremely careful in dealings with women. A brahmachari is forbidden even to see the wife of his spiritual master if she happens to be young. The wife of the spiritual master may sometimes take some service from the disciple of her husband as she would from a son. But if the wife of the spiritual master is young, a brahmachari is forbidden to render service to her. So it's the same idea, isn't it? Important. Very important. Of course, one has to be able to deal with these things. Well, there is... Oh, no. Anyway. I came across something interesting from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, but I don't have it here. No, I don't. So... But this is a very important part of Krishna consciousness. The foundational principle is that we, conditioned souls, we have the tendency, well, say tendency, but it can be more than just a tendency, to accept someone else as being a candidate for taking the role, the position in our lives that Krishna should have. In a sense, that's the basic principle or problem like that which is involved, that people in this world are oftentimes searching for love or, something of that sort, just some company of the opposite sex. And this is a very strong drive. It's a very strong drive. And we see also in devotees that even though as devotees, of course, we know our focal point, our focus should be Krishna. But still, there is a tendency, if we just use the word tendency, but it can be more than just a tendency. It can be really like a drive to find a person with whom we can have a personal relationship, close, very, very close personal relationship, in which there is real affection and, you could say, attachment and attraction and the feeling of need. And even the feeling of, without that, then life becomes difficult. But if one analyzes what is that phenomenon, really, ultimately at least, the basis of that phenomenon is that we are looking for a substitute for Krishna. Actually, we should have that type of relationship with Krishna. That's Krishna consciousness. To develop love for Krishna. Actually, that love is already there, as Lord Chaitanya says in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi Shravan Adi Shuddha Chitte Kareye Udoy. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema, that the eternal perfection of love for Krishna, sadhya, eternally, kabunoi, is situated within. And if Shravan Adi Shuddha Chitte, if we practice Krishna consciousness, Shravan Adi, beginning with hearing, then Kareye Udoy, that love, that dormant love, that covered over love, it will rise in the heart. Udoy refers to rising, like our temple in Mayapur, the Mayapur Chandra Udoya Mandir, the temple of the rising moon of Lord Chaitanya. Yes, so Kareye Udoy, that this will happen, that love will rise, that love which is already there, but it's covered over, it's submerged, it's really, really submerged and chronically submerged. But if we engage nicely in the process of devotional service, Shravan Adi, this is common Sanskrit grammatical construction, when you want to give a list of a number of things which are all connected together, they're just like a natural group, then, but you don't want to list them all out, then just mention the first one and put Adi after it. Adi means first or beginning. Shravan Adi. So, Nityasiddha Krishna Prema Sadhya Kabunoi Shravan Adi Shuddha Chitte Kareye Udoy. So if we engage in the process of devotional service, and it's really referring to the systematic process, Shravan Adi, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, as Prahlad Maharaj says in the 7th canto. So that's like the standard process. If you engage in the standard process, beginning with hearing about Krishna, then Shuddha Chitte, the heart or the consciousness will become purified, and Kareye Udoy, that dormant love for Krishna or covered love for Krishna, it will arise. Just like the moon rises at night, the sun rises in the morning. And, at night, it's just dark. But then the sun starts coming. And, it's quite a spectacular thing, actually, when the sun really starts rising. First of all, along the horizon line, there's this little sort of streak of light or something like that. Yeah, but otherwise it's generally dark. And then that little streak sort of widens and light starts to appear a little bit here or around. And then anyway, we've seen it so many times. Then the sun comes. Then the sun's there. But at first it's just like this little sort of streak or something like that along the horizon line. And if you didn't know anything about it, you might think that, what's this? This is nothing. This is nothing much. It's just, it's practically everything's still dark and there's just this little glimmer there. But in due course, the sun comes. So similarly, when we engage in the process, the practical, systematic process of devotional service to Krishna, then even though that may begin in a situation where there is actually just total darkness, and then first thing is just a glimmer, hardly anything, but something. So for us, we're trying to develop our Krishna consciousness, but of course we're deeply habituated. It's not just having a tendency. It's like a super heavy addiction. Such a heavy addiction. Yeah, it's like a monster, actually. Inescapable monster of attraction to material life and material enjoyment and all these types of things. And you look at it and it's like some monster. And on the other side is this glimmer of sunlight on the horizon, but it's just, barely noticeable. But devotional service is so powerful that if we practice nicely, then step by step, it's a step-by-step process, but gradually that dormant, covered Krishna consciousness, you could say, sort of asserts itself, or not exactly asserts itself, but just becomes more prominent and more prominent and more significant and more powerful. So after a little while, well, maybe not after a little while, but after a while, then one finds that one is actually becoming freed from the monster. Yeah, the monster. And the monster is just chased away. And Krishna consciousness, your Krishna consciousness becomes firmly established. And that's the process. That's the process that Lord Chaitanya is talking about there. Shravan Adi, Shuddha Chitte, and then Kareye Udoy. So of course one has to apply oneself, because old habits die hard. And habits of this sort, because this is so fundamental to conditioned existence, the attraction between the sexes. But even that can be overcome. There's, in Bhagavad Gita, in the beginning of the 15th chapter, the example is given of the reflected tree. The reflected tree on the bank of a body of water, right on the water's edge, is a tree, quite a substantial tree, and it's right by the water. And so, when the conditions, when the water is just steady and there's nice light there, then you see the reflection of the tree. It's just identical. And we had an interesting experience, I remember, from, I think it was 1976 or 5 or 6. we were staying in Belfast, Northern Ireland, doing book distribution. That was quite a program, with bombs going off at least twice a week. But still, we were going out, and we were staying with some sort of, kind of nice Hindu people. They weren't really outstanding, but they let us stay for a week or something. And we were staying there. We were staying in their lounge, 4 of us. We took over. And on the wall was a picture of the Taj Mahal. And in front of the Taj Mahal is a waterway. I've not been there actually, but seen many photos. So there's some, one of these classic waterway things coming straight out, picturesque looking, with the reflection of the Taj Mahal in it. After a few days, you know what we realized? We realized the picture was upside down. And we were looking at the reflection and thinking, yes, there's the Taj Mahal. Somehow it was like that. Yeah, so Bhagavad Gita in the beginning of the 15th chapter talks about that, the reflection of the tree. That it, under suitable circumstances, it looks exactly like the tree. You just, you'd have to really study it to see what's the tree and what's the reflection. So, anyway, this example is there, and all the parts of the real tree are in the reflected tree. Every branch is there in place, every twig, every leaf, every fruit or flower or whatever, just everything is there, and it's just right in place, and it pretty much looks exactly like the original. But if you try to sniff one of the flowers in the reflection, well, anyway, you get a nose full of water. Yes. So, but now the thing is, so that's there. And the tendency, propensity, or like that, to confuse the reflection for the real tree, that's very strong. In fact, like we said, it's like an addiction. That's it. We accept the reflection as being the real tree. There you go. But in this specific regard here, the interesting point is that in the real tree, at the top of the real tree, right on the actual top, is Radha and Krishna and the love of Radha and Krishna. That's just the topmost of the spiritual world. That's it. There's certainly nothing higher, and there's nothing equal to the love of Radha and Krishna. In the reflection, in the real tree, they're at the top. In the reflection, of course, everything is upside down. So, at the lowest point in the reflection is, you and your girlfriend, or something like that, male and female. Yeah, that type of relationship. At the lowest point, the reflection of the loving relationship between Radha and Krishna, or ourselves for Krishna, for Radha and Krishna. So that highest and most wonderful thing, just absolutely most wonderful thing in the real tree, so to speak, in the spiritual world. Krishna prema, love for the Lord, loving relationship. In the reflected tree in this material world, the reflection, it's the worst thing, the lowest thing, which, as we've read over the last few verses, that, like the previous verse, the infatuation and bondage which accrue to a man from attachment to any other object is not as complete as that resulting from attachment to a woman or to the fellowship of men who are fond of women. And don't worry, ladies, you just turn it around and, yeah, that's the way it works. That's the way it works. So there's nothing in this world which confuses a person, be they male or female. There's nothing which confuses them in terms of turning them away from Krishna as much as this type of relationship. So therefore, as Prabhupada said here, we have to be very careful. Prabhupada makes the point, well, we read it. It's best to practice controlling the senses by performing bhakti yoga, engaging in the service of Madan Mohan. Otherwise, attempts to control the senses will fail. Yeah. So, of course, Krishna has so many names. One of them is Madan Mohan. Madan is actually the name of Cupid in Sanskrit. Yeah. Madan is the name of, or like Kandapa, sometimes the term is used, but otherwise Madan is the basic term. And Mohan means attractor. So Krishna is known as Madan Mohan, the attractor of Cupid. And if we become attracted to Krishna, then we will lose our attraction for Cupid. There's there used to be a nice place along the Parikrama path around Vrindavan town called Apsara Ghat, which has now become built up, unfortunately. But that was where Krishna was dancing with the gopis, and Cupid came. Cupid, not understanding who is Krishna and what is Krishna's position, but rather thinking that Krishna is just some young teenage boy who's just enamored by young girls who are enamored by him. So Cupid came, and thinking like this, and having heard that Krishna says that he dances with the gopis, but he's not affected by their association. None of the sort of usual attraction takes place, but it's sort of like celibate dancing or something along those lines. So Cupid, having heard that, he thought, I will go there and I will show Krishna, I will teach Krishna a lesson by exposing how he really is attracted in material ways. I will fire my arrows, which will arouse those types of feelings in this Krishna. So he went there to that place, Apsara Ghat, and there was Krishna dancing with the gopis, and it's very beautiful, very amazing scene. And Cupid, he thought, right, here we go. And he took his bow and arrow, one arrow, and, they're dancing, so they're moving. They're really moving. And he's trying to aim at Krishna, but he can't get an aim because Krishna's just constantly moving. So Cupid is really trying to focus on Krishna to get his aim. And as he's really trying to focus, he sees, wow, this Krishna is really beautiful, actually. But then Krishna's moved. Oops, now I got to aim again. And so second time, oops, now he's on that side. Okay, wow, yeah, this Krishna's amazingly beautiful. It's incredible. But then Krishna moved. Okay, third time. All right, we'll get him now. And then he saw, wow, actually he's incredibly beautiful. And Cupid fainted and dropped his bow and arrow. That's the story. That's Krishna as Madan Mohan, the attractor of Cupid. Krishna's so attractive that he could attract even Cupid. Cupid, who otherwise attracts everyone, and sometimes in the most, ridiculous and crazy ways. But everyone, just everyone. But the same Cupid became overpowered by attraction to Krishna. And therefore it's said that particularly, Madan Mohan is the presiding deity of the beginning stages of devotional service, when we're just sort of connecting up with Krishna, becoming a little established like that. And then you come under the shelter of Govinda, who's the presiding deity of actual devotional service. So the idea is that we must keep Madan Mohan with us all the time. Because if we're always Krishna conscious, if we're always fixed in consciousness of Krishna, means he's right there with us. He's right there. Krishna's right there. And if Cupid comes to try to fire his arrow at us and and try to arouse some attraction of that sort, if Cupid tries to do that, but if Krishna's right there with us, then Cupid will see Krishna and will faint and we'll be okay. It's not a simple thing. I mean, it is sort of, but that's the principle. That's the principle. If we engage in the service of Madan Mohan, Krishna, and we keep focused on him and we're with him all the time and he's with us, then Cupid will not be able to touch us and do all the usual things. Because Krishna can subdue Cupid or lust. Yes. So otherwise, one should be careful and one should regulate oneself, regulate one's dealings with the opposite sex so as not to get into just sort of informal socializing and all that sort of thing, which leads to just attachment of the wrong sort developing. So Prabhupada says, therefore everyone's advised that one should not freely mix, even with one's own daughter, mother or sister, because the senses are so strong that when one becomes infatuated, the senses don't consider the relationship. Hare Krishna. Any comments or questions? It's the sort of, it's the sort of subject matter. Devotees don't usually fall asleep during the classes, but they don't usually have many questions at the end also. Get the message, yeah.
Sorry, I'm just trying to frame my question.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, we have one question from Zoom.
Okay, go ahead. Yes, please. Дайте нам вопрос.
Харе Кришна Гуру Махарадж.
Харибол.
Спасибо за лекцию. У меня такой вопрос. Если преданный практикует прямые анги-бхакти, выполняет служение в храме, то еще он выполняет служение старшим возвышенным преданным личное, но вот у него все еще в сердце может возникать вот этот огонь материальных желаний. Означает ли это, что это все происходит из-за сева-аппарата и нама-аппарата?
Uh-huh. Okay. Can our translator just clarify exactly? Did any of you understand that?
The question is.
Yes.
If you can hear me.
I can hear
The
you.
question is, so if a devotee is practicing the direct angas of devotional service, he serves in the temple, he serves exalted Vaishnavas, he worships deities, serves exalted Vaishnavas.
Right.
But still there's a fire, blazing fire in his heart of material desires. Does it mean actually that it's because it's happening on the basis of and because of seva prat and nama prat?
Okay. So now will you translate simultaneously my answer?
Yes.
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 Okay. All right. Generally speaking, it would be the sort of the foundation, the first part of it, of the problem, would be one's conditioned nature and conditioned tendencies, propensities like that we're just so prone to become attached materially. But having said that, if one is committing offences, either seva aparads or nama aparads, they will certainly strengthen the fire of, the attack of the sensual desires. And on the other hand, if one really is very careful to practice nicely and keep focused in Krishna consciousness and keep self-controlled in Krishna consciousness, then even though the conditioned habits and tendencies are there from many lifetimes, but they'll be less. And gradually one will be able to control them and deal with them, and on a more advanced level, they will fall away. How does that sound? Что вы думаете?
Да, спасибо большое, я поняла.
Как вас зовут?
Махабава Деви.
О, Махабава Деви Даси, спасибо. Из Москвы. Okay.
Можно еще один вопрос?
Okay.
Вы говорили про самоконтроль.
Да.
Является ли самоконтролем, когда человек осознанно отказывается от выполнения какого-то служения, которое будет связано с очень большим количеством общения с противоположным полом?
Mm-hmm. So the translation is, you were saying about the self-control. Can it be considered as a self-control if a devotee rejects voluntarily the certain practical devotional services in order not to get mixed with the opposite sex?
Well, if really, generally, if we're asked to do service by the authorities, we should do it.
Смысл в том, что
But if a person is finding that they're getting sort of too exposed to attractions and it's really causing some difficulty, then, not just rejecting like that, but after consulting with the authorities, it may well be a good idea for the service to be changed so the devotee doesn't have to be exposed like that. But we should be careful about how we deal with our prescribed duties. Prescribed duty, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that and Prabhupada says, that when one is given a service by the authorized system, then one should take it that Krishna wants me to do this service. Not just like, they needed someone to do something and I was the first person who walked by and they just grabbed me. Hey, do the service, please. No, but we should take it that Krishna wants us to do this service. And that's very sacred. That's very sacred, and we should really try and do that service. And therefore it would only be under special circumstances if somehow or other one was being, sort of foolish enough to become bewildered by some aspect of the situation. It would only be under special circumstances that one should want to change the service. Otherwise, generally, one should stick at the service and stay and keep praying and really try to take shelter. Хорошо.
Екатерина Лира, пожалуйста, говорите. Гуру Махарадж, если меня слышно, у нас еще один вопрос. Екатерина
Да,
Лира,
я слышно. Катя, пожалуйста.
Да, Катя. Вопрос от Кати. Хари Кришна, Гуру Махарадж, примите, пожалуйста, мои поклоны. Скажите, пожалуйста, а возможно ли любовь в материальном мире или возможно только вожделение? Если возможно, то в каком случае? The question is it possible
to have love.
some example, love in material world or just lust? Yeah, or if possible, to what extent and what kind of love is possible?
We mentioned the other day, actually, that Prabhupada said the closest thing to pure love in the material world is the love of a mother for the child. But it's the closest thing. It's not actually like pure love. And the proof of that, which we mentioned the other day, is that the greatest cause of death for human beings, as far as we know, is abortion, which basically means the mother is killing her child. So it may be the closest thing to pure love, and sometimes you see it like that. The mother may actually give her life to save the child, that something of that sort. So you can see there's a relationship with pure love, but it's generally not very pure, and there's a lot of impurity in it. Like the child is growing up, and in some cases the child wants to become a Hare Krishna devotee and live in the temple, but the mother hits the roof and wants to reject the child this definitely happens. So in other words, it's sort of like 99% you're not going to find anything which is much like pure love. It's generally the vast majority. There's a lot of lust, just personal desire for pleasure mixed in with what passes or is thought to be love. Harasha. I think it's Harasha, which means good. Yes?
My question was regarding the last line which Prabhupada is saying that by engaging in the service of more than one, it's the only way that the senses can become controlled.
Right.
Maybe just a reflection, I don't know if it's true. Sometimes it feels that it can also be an excuse to be so busy in devotional service that we don't actually encounter what we're actually experiencing internally, and then we circumvent the introspection that's needed. And I'm
Uh-huh.
wondering, does it depend on how we serve and in what capacities, such that that sort of introspection is stimulated? Sometimes it feels like.
Okay, so the question is, sometimes a devotee is so, in order to deal with material desire, it keeps so busy in devotional service, right, that they're just like, sure. Anyway, they're just really, really busy, sort of trying to blank out the material attractions. But is this really a good thing? Because in order to actually overcome material desire, some introspection has to be there, and, like mature thinking, and maybe you could say even more mature strategizing how to deal with material desire. And therefore just to be sort of frantically busy may be, what would you call it, just a diversion from dealing with the actual problem. Is that the idea? That anyway, that's the idea. Well, yes. To be fully engaged in devotional service generally is very good, is very important. It's actually a lot better than not being sufficiently engaged in devotional service. And then, as Prabhupada endorsed the famous saying that the idle mind is the devil's workshop, because it really is. Oh, Krishna. Yeah, so to keep fully engaged is a very important and necessary part of Krishna consciousness. But at the same time to develop mature understandings of who and what you are. Yeah, of who and what you are, and what helps you, what sort of program in Krishna consciousness is most suitable for you, and that sort of thing, what sort of service is suitable for you. These are important considerations. So there has to be some room for that, rather than just being, you might say, a sort of a Krishna conscious workaholic. Yeah, something like that. Because these these material tendencies, attractions, habits, they don't give up easily. They are worthy enemies. Gosh, they're amazing. Just when you thought you got over something, you turn around and there it is again. So there's a great need to keep fully engaged, nicely engaged, and not get into just sort of, a kind of spaced out and not properly focused condition. But at the same time, we have to and we have to consult with older devotees too. What's good for us in terms of engagement in Krishna's service, how to cultivate our Krishna consciousness in the most effective ways, including in terms of individual considerations. This needs to be there. Is that okay? Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
So pretty much the band is only going to live it this evening for the watch. So he said you only can bring it tomorrow or something. But he said you can use the watch tomorrow if you want.
I'm not even sure which one's his. Do you know which one? No. This is three, right? This is three.
So now my class for Moscow, right?
For recording.
For recording. When is the deadline? You understand deadline?
Yes, before 22nd, I think.
Oh, I see. So we've still got another week. Because, I think, it would be easier for me to do it on a day when I don't have like the morning class. And so maybe Monday we'll have to have a look at my program.
I asked to record interview with Rupa Damodara about temple and this place.
On Monday.
He didn't ask me Monday or Tuesday, so we can just
Okay.
adjust.
Yeah, either Monday or Tuesday we can do. And can I get a copy of the class about Balaram from yesterday?
It's not uploaded yet.
It's still going?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
how many gigabytes?
25, but I think I coded it, from 500 gigabytes to 25, and just start and it go at the night. But it's the morning. I went to that room and see that something went wrong. Premiere Pro closed before it finished or something. Yes, so I code it again and just start code. Maybe 3 hours.
Yeah, right. Okay, no, that's all right. But does it seem okay?
Yes.
You recorded in 6K, is it? In
4K.
RAW? Oh, 4K.
4K for me it's easy because it's already 16 to 9 proportions. So I just and I save loot file, so colors is okay.
Okay.
For YouTube it's better than than we need actually.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But if someone will look at big screen, for example TV, some modern TV, it will very good.
But that camera, the main setting in 6K is 16 by 9.
Oh,
yeah. And you just reduce it down to 4K or 1920 1080. It's exactly the same proportions. I mean, it may not be necessary at all, but that's how it's designed. And then you can, you've made a LUT, because there's some LUTs which I bought, not expensive.
for RAW.
Huh?
For RAW or for ProRes?
For raw,
For raw, okay.
for raw. Oh yeah. There, it's called. You'll see they should be there. Leeming.
Mm-hmm.
It's the name of a person, Mr. Leeming, and he makes lats. That's what he does.
Professional.
Yeah, that's what he does. And they cost $30 or euros, but you get a few lats, little variations, for raw. But anyway, it's okay. If you get a good result with ProRes, it's okay.
Can I send you link for our YouTube channel and you can open and test, for example?
Sure.
If it good enough.
Yeah. Okay.
How sound? Did you hear devotees from Zoom?
Yes.
Should I adjust more or less?
No. It's very good.
And me also? When I ask?
It's okay.
Okay. So I just leave it.
Yeah. It's good. So, what am I? Oh yeah, on the 17th is Tuesday. Well, it's in the afternoon. I have to go to the dental surgeon.
2 o'clock.
But I could do in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Once Swarup Damodar will answer about the exact day, I
Okay.
will replace in our schedule.
Okay, I see. Right.